Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. We always put these together for you Vintage Car Chronicles listeners. And today we're going to take a deep dive into the history of Chrysler. Buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride.
I think you're right about that. Chrysler, they really have seen it all, haven't they? From those groundbreaking innovations all the way to those nail-biting risks and then those absolutely amazing comebacks. It's a story that really goes beyond just cars, you know?
Yeah, how so?
Well, when you look at Chrysler's story, it's really this relentless chase for engineering excellence, a willingness to just completely challenge conventions and like a remarkable ability to bounce back no matter what gets thrown at them.
That's so true. It's like this American story of ambition and grit and, just pure ingenuity. And it all started with this guy, this one man who just embodies that spirit, Walter Chrysler.
He's the embodiment of it.
I mean, talk about a real rags to riches story.
Oh, absolutely.
This guy went from working as a machinist to becoming a titan of the entire auto industry. He even rescued failing companies along the way. What do you think drove him?
You know, I think to understand him, you got to look at his background, where he was really hands-on. It wasn't just about building cars for him. He wanted to build machines that were really well engineered that anyone could afford. It was like he brought that machinist mindset, focused on precision and practicality at everything he did.
He was bringing that blue-collar work ethic to this world of high-society automobiles, and then he just comes out swinging right out the gate with the 1924 Chrysler 6. I mean, hydraulic brakes, a high-compression six-cylinder engine that could hit an unheard-of 58 horsepower. These were things you'd normally only find in those fancy luxury cars, and he's offering them at a price that everyday Americans could afford. That had to be a game changer, right?
Oh, totally. It was like he threw down the gauntlet, challenging the status quo by offering these cutting-edge features and this crazy performance, all at a price that just blew the competition out of the water. For those Vintage Car Chronicles listeners out there, the Chrysler 6 is just a fantastic example of how Chrysler just flipped the script on the market and brought in this whole new wave of customers.
Speaking of bringing in new customers,
Yeah.
I was blown away when I learned about some of Chrysler's other early innovations, like floating power engine mounts to cut down on those vibrations. Pure genius. They were also one of the first to use wind tunnels for aerodynamic design, literally shaping the cars of the future.
And don't even get me started on that safety wheel rim they came up with that's still in use today.
Absolutely. Chrysler knew that safety was just as important as how the car performed or looked. That safety wheel rim with that deep well to stop tire blowouts was a revolutionary feature that made driving safer for everyone. It's like a perfect example of how Chrysler is thinking about the real-world impacts of their engineering. They wanted to make a difference. It blows my mind to think how many things we take for granted in our cars today can be traced back to those early experiments by Chrysler. But they weren't just laser-focused on engineering. They also knew how important branding and market segmentation was. That's when they started expanding their portfolio, right?
Exactly. They saw what General Motors was doing with their multi-brand approach and decided to follow suit.
Makes sense.
So they snagged Dodge, which was already a big name known for its tough and reliable cars. Then they came up with Plymouth for the budget-conscious buyer and DeSoto, which fit right in between Dodge and Chrysler.
It's wild how those brands kind of shifted positions over time. Like DeSoto started out as this more prestigious brand than Dodge, but then eventually they flipped spots in the pecking order. It just goes to show how fast-moving the industry was and how brands had to constantly evolve to stay in the game.
Oh, definitely. The car industry is a constant chess match, and Chrysler proved to be a grandmaster. But even the best players make the occasional blunder. And that brings us to the Airflow, a car that was years ahead of its time but just couldn't connect with the buyers.
The Airflow story is so intriguing. You've got this incredibly advanced car with this super sleek and aerodynamic design unlike anything else on the roads. It even had unibody construction for extra strength and to keep it lightweight, but it flopped. Why?
The Airflow is like a poster child for being too far ahead of its time. You see, that radical design was just too much for people who were used to those boxy, upright cars of the time. They just weren't ready for such a big shift in looks, even if it meant better fuel economy and a more aerodynamic ride.
It's funny how what seemed radical then is totally normal now. Sleek and aerodynamic are basically the gold standard for car design today. But back then, it was just too much of a departure from what people knew.
It's a valuable lesson for anyone who's trying to innovate. You can have the most cutting-edge tech, the most groundbreaking design, but if the market isn't ready for it, it's going nowhere.
So the Airflow might have missed the mark in terms of design, but it also showed how committed Chrysler was to pushing those boundaries and exploring new possibilities.
Mm.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, Chrysler's role in World War II is something I bet would surprise a lot of vintage car fans out there. I mean, we all know that car companies helped out with the war effort, but Chrysler went above and beyond just building vehicles.
You're telling me they did way more than just make tanks and military trucks. They were a key player in developing and manufacturing really advanced tech like radar antenna components, which were essential for the war effort. It was top secret stuff, really showed off their engineering skills and how they could adapt to new challenges.
Radar technology.
Hmm.
Who knew that the company known for its stylish cars was also a pioneer in radar development? That's got to be news to a lot of our listeners.
It really shows how versatile they were, how they could take their expertise and apply it to totally different fields. And get this, that wartime experience actually launched them into something even more unexpected after the war, the world of missiles and space exploration.
Hold on, missiles. Space programs. Chrysler. This I did not know. Tell me more.
Well, their wartime experience gave them this incredible skill set in precision engineering and high-tech manufacturing, which made them a perfect partner for the up-and-coming space program. They even work with big names like Wernher von Braun, developing crucial parts for the Redstone and Jupiter missiles, which were a huge deal in America's early space program.
So from building cars to building rockets, that is quite the leap.
And it gets even cooler that they had a whole space division at Chrysler, and they were heavily involved in developing the Saturn rocket, the one that took those brave astronauts to the moon.
I bet our Vintage Car Chronicles listeners would be all over this story. It's not every day you hear about a car company that's got a space program on its resume. Talk about reaching for the stars. They were always looking ahead, always pushing the limits of what was possible.
100%. But even with their sights set on the cosmos, Chrysler still had to handle those down-to-earth challenges of the car market. And in the 1980s, they had a whole new set of obstacles that would require yet another one of their incredible comebacks.
They needed a reinvention. It was time for the K car and the minivan to enter the scene.
Lee Iacocca, the guy who'd already pulled Chrysler back from the edge in the 70s, was back in the driver's seat. And he brought with him two vehicles that would change everything.
Iacocca was a master at knowing what people wanted even before they knew it themselves. That famous line of his, "If you can find a better car, buy it," was pure marketing genius. Bold statement that really grabbed people's attention and made them believe in the Chrysler brand again.
Oh, yeah. The K-Car was a stroke of genius. A front-wheel drive compact built on this super versatile platform. It was affordable, good on gas, and incredibly practical, just what people needed during a recession with those skyrocketing gas prices. And then there was the minivan. This thing was revolutionary, totally changed family transportation forever.
I remember when the minivan first came out. It was unlike anything we'd ever seen. Families finally had this spacious and versatile option, perfect for hauling kids groceries, camping gear, whatever you could imagine.
It wasn't just about practicality, though. The minivan's front-wheel drive and car-like handling made it surprisingly fun to drive, way better than those clunky station wagons of the past.
A true game changer, no doubt. Another perfect example of Chrysler spotting a need in the market and nailing it with a truly innovative solution.
But even with the success of the K-Car and the minivan, the road ahead for Chrysler wasn't exactly smooth sailing. The car industry was going global, and Chrysler, even with those strong American roots, knew they had to expand their reach. This led to a bunch of mergers and acquisitions, some more successful than others.
Yeah, that Daimler-Benz partnership comes to mind. It seems like a match made in heaven on paper, two automotive giants joining forces. But in reality, things didn't go as planned.
Mergers are tough. You're trying to blend different company cultures, management styles, and engineering philosophies. It's a huge challenge. And for Daimler Chrysler, those challenges were just too much to overcome.
They couldn't make that magic happen like they'd hoped. And in the end, the merger ended with Chrysler being sold off to Cerberus Capital Management. And that sale happened right before the 2008 financial crisis. Talk about bad timing.
It was a perfect storm for the car industry. The global economy tanked, demand for new cars plummeted, and Chrysler, already weakened by that Daimler merger, was in serious trouble again. It was a do-or-die moment for the company.
And then things took another crazy turn.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy, government bailouts, and a partnership that nobody saw coming. It was a wild ride.
2009 was a pivotal year for Chrysler. They were on the ropes, but this combination of drastic measures, government help, and a strategic partnership with a very unexpected ally pulled them back from the brink.
And that ally was
Fiat, the Italian automaker known for their small, fuel-efficient cars.
So the American giant Chrysler teams up with Fiat, the company famous for tiny cars like the Fiat 500. That's a plot twist. What led to that unlikely pairing?
It was a marriage of necessity. but one that actually worked out great for both sides. Chrysler really needed to add those small, fuel-efficient cars to their lineup to keep up with changing tastes and those tougher fuel economy standards. And Fiat, wanting to break into the North American market, saw a chance to use Chrysler's manufacturing power and their established network of dealerships.
It's the classic story of two companies with strengths that complement each other coming together to create something stronger than they could on their own.
Exactly. And the result was Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, or FCA for short, a brand new chapter in the constantly evolving story of Chrysler.
We've covered so much ground already, from Walter Chrysler's humble workshop to almost going under and then roaring back to life. It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and this constant drive to innovate.
Mm.
But we're not done yet. There's so much more to explore in the incredible history of Chrysler. Stick with us for part 2 of our deep dive coming up right after this.
And what a roller coaster ride it was for FCA. They really rode out that financial crisis, revamped their lineup, and even managed to turn a profit again. Shows you how resilient they were and how well they could adapt to a changing market.
What do you think were some of their key strategies that helped them make that turnaround?
One of the biggest things they did was tap into Fiat's expertise in designing and engineering small cars.
Yeah.
Chrysler hadn't really nailed that segment before, but with Fiat's help, they were able to develop some really competitive models like the Dodge Dart and the Chrysler 200.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fuel efficiency and affordability were huge for people back then.
Hmm.
Did they just focus on smaller cars, or did they keep developing those bigger, iconic vehicles too?
They were smart about it. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket. They expanded their small car options, but they also kept investing in their core brands like Jeep, Dodge, and Ram.
Hmm.
You know, those Dodge Challenger and Charger models were a smash hit. They tapped right into that muscle car nostalgia that Americans love.
Ah, yes. The muscle car revival. Those cars were definitely head-turners. Brought some excitement back to Chrysler. And what about Jeep? Did they keep doing well under FCA?
Oh, absolutely. Jeep has always been a powerhouse for Chrysler, and under FCA, they just kept building on that success. The new Wrangler and Grand Cherokee were still bestsellers, cementing Jeep's place as the top dog for off-roading.
Jeep's become this global icon. It's more than just a car. It's a symbol of adventure, freedom, and ruggedness. And it really reflects Chrysler's own journey. Tough, adaptable, and always up for a challenge.
It really is amazing when you think about Chrysler's journey, from these humble beginnings in Kansas to rescuing failing car companies to pioneering innovations that changed the whole industry to building missiles and even going to space to forging those unlikely partnerships that led to their rebirth. It's an incredible story.
And the story's still being written, isn't it? Here we are diving into Chrysler's past, but their future is wide open. And now that we're at the dawn of a new era in the car world, with electric vehicles and self-driving cars becoming more and more common, I wonder how Chrysler will handle this uncharted territory.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How will a company with such a rich history of innovation and adaptation respond to the biggest shift the industry has seen in decades?
Well, they've shown that they're willing to embrace new technology in the past. They were early adopters of hybrid tech, and they've been investing in electric vehicle development for a while now.
True. And they're also experimenting with autonomous driving systems. They know that the future of driving is going to look very different, and they want to be a part of it.
Seems like they've always had that forward-thinking mindset, always pushing the boundaries. And that makes me pretty optimistic about their future.
I agree. Chrysler's faced a lot of challenges over the years, and they've always found a way to come out on top. I have no doubt they'll bring that same resilience and ingenuity to the challenges of the 21st century.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's one more important chapter in Chrysler's recent history that we need to talk about. The creation of FCA was a major turning point, but it wasn't the end of the story. In 2021, another merger shook things up again, and Chrysler found itself as part of a global automotive giant.
You're talking about the merger of FCA and the French automaker group PSA, which created Stellantis?
Exactly. The Stellantis merger created the fourth largest car maker in the world, bringing together all these different brands like Peugeot, Citroën, Opel, Vauxhall, Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and, of course, Chrysler. It's a global powerhouse.
The Stellantis merger is a whole new era for Chrysler. It gives them access to more resources, technologies, and markets, but it also comes with new challenges because now they're operating within a much bigger and more complex organization.
I'm wondering how you think this merger will affect Chrysler's future. Will they be able to keep their unique identity within such a massive company? Will they keep innovating and pushing the limits of car technology?
Those are great questions, and honestly, only time will tell. But I think Chrysler's strong brand identity, their track record of innovation, and their never give up attitude will serve them well in this new chapter.
I hope so. It would be a shame to see such an iconic American brand lose its character within a global giant. But, like we've seen throughout our deep dive today, Chrysler has a way of defying expectations and coming back even stronger.
You got it. And that's what makes their story so fascinating. They never throw in the towel, they keep innovating, and they find a way to succeed even when things seem impossible.
It's truly inspiring. Their journey shows the power of human ingenuity, determination, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. And I have a feeling that the most exciting chapters in Chrysler's story are still to come.
Couldn't agree more. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Chrysler, there's one more cool thing about their history that I think would really interest those Vintage Car Chronicles listeners. It's a surprising connection to military technology, and it goes beyond their wartime contributions.
Oh, I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more.
You ready for this? Chrysler played a big role in developing the M1 Abrams tank, one of the most powerful main battle tanks in the world.
No way. The M1 Abrams. That's a legend. I never knew Chrysler had a hand in creating that. What do they do exactly?
Well, their defense division, which later became General Dynamics Land Systems, was the one that designed and built the Abrams gas turbine engine. This engine was a beast, super powerful and reliable, a big reason why the tank performed so well and could move so quickly.
So they went from powering family cars to powering battle tanks.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Chrysler's engineering skills really covered a lot of ground.
Absolutely. Shows how adaptable they were and how they could push those engineering boundaries in all sorts of industries. They weren't afraid to take on new challenges, even if it was something totally different from their car business.
It's mind-blowing when you think about everything Chrysler accomplished. They've had an impact on so many things, from everyday family life to military tech and even space exploration.
Their story is a true testament to American innovation and the legacy of a company that always pushed the limits.
And for all our Vintage Car Chronicles listeners out there, this deep dive into Chrysler's history gives you a whole new way to look at those cars you love and collect. It's more than just the shiny chrome and the classic designs. It's about the people, the innovations, the risks they took, and the pure determination that shaped the company and its legacy.
It's about seeing the bigger picture of how these cars came to be. You know, the technology, the culture, the economy, and even world events all played a part in shaping the car industry and influencing Chrysler's journey.
It's like you're adding another layer to how you appreciate these vintage vehicles. They become more than just cars. They're like time capsules, each one telling a story about a specific moment in Chrysler's history and reflecting the story of the automobile itself.
That's the beauty of vintage cars. They connect us to the past, they make us use our imaginations, and they remind us of a time when cars were more than just a way to get around. They were symbols of freedom, innovation, and that American spirit.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of stories, I think we've told a pretty epic one today.
Yeah.
We've gone from those early days of Walter Chrysler's dream to the modern era of Stellantis, uncovering those surprising twists and turns, those daring moves, and those inspiring comebacks.
It's been an amazing journey exploring a company that's seen it all the highs and lows. And through it all, Chrysler has shown a commitment to American manufacturing, a knack for understanding what people want, and this incredible ability to reinvent itself when times get tough.
It's a legacy to be proud of. And as Chrysler navigates the future, it's going to be exciting to see how they use their rich history to shape what's next.
Here's something for you Vintage Car Chronicles listeners to think about. How will Chrysler adapt to the changing world of cars with electric vehicles, self-driving cars, and this growing need for sustainable transportation?
It's a question that's going to define the next chapter of Chrysler's story. Will they show us once again that they can innovate and adapt? Will they keep making cars that capture the hearts of car lovers everywhere?
We'll have to wait and see. But if history tells us anything, it's that Chrysler will face these challenges head-on. They'll draw on their history of innovation resilience and that passion for building amazing cars.
Well said. It's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this special episode we put together just for you, the Vintage Car Chronicles audience.
We've just scratched the surface of Chrysler's incredible story, but hopefully we've made you want to learn even more.
And remember, new episodes of Vintage Car Chronicles come out every single day. So make sure to tune in for more insightful discussions, fascinating facts, and captivating stories from the world of classic cars. Thanks for joining us, and until next time.
Keep those engines running strong.